rotation, but settling down on the low ground.
Defensively and maybe give them some time to step into that role. But when you're going up against a team like Vexed Gaming and you're coupling it with Unlucky and Tyler, two insane fraggers, this is not who you want to meet on your early game fights, especially knowing that this is a must-perform day for you.
Yeah, that and Tyler feels himself right now. He did it earlier. How he literally had his best career game.
Kita nobar turnamen Epic Legend dulu ya guys ya.
Come out, that could be the squad that's actually hanging out underneath a lot of the chaos going down in staging. Now as Vex Gaming are taking control of the high ground here, they can also take control of the southern rotation from the squads exiting out of Thermal like Alliance.
Well, they're going to have to take control of a couple other teams as well, because you've got Kansas City Pioneers and Horizon looking to get into the mix here, as you see Gaming Gladiators unfortunately being eliminated at the hands of Vex Gaming. Where is Fallout when you need him to start his list? That essential elimination list of Vex Gaming. So GG at the top of their list currently, and they're looking for more.
Hey, we gotta talk about KCP. This is obviously one of our other more consistent squads in the EMEA region. They're sitting at third in the overall standing currently, and they were able to help out Vex Gaming in taking care of Gaming Gladiators as the first squad to go down in this first lobby. Not the way that you want to start off your performance on World's Edge when you felt way more comfortable on World's Edge before. And look at these Watson fences. Mwah, chef's kiss, looking like a Picasso painting out here. Just making sure you make a statement from IG, as they're gonna be able to overlook some of the action happening on the high ground.
I mean, why push in when you can just, you know, essentially double down and see all the action from your crypto drone? But Vex Gaming, sharing the resources, I really love that moment for them. And you've got Matafeo with that napkin shield, as Wig would say, which is totally fine because you have that G7 Scout to farm those mid-range engagements. And you can see they're in no hurry to overextend and push into that next fight, because a lot of these teams are starting to set up shop in this vicinity. The moment you kind of essentially full send onto a team, so many other teams are going to want a part of that third-party action.
Yeah, you know, talking about Vex Gaming and their positioning right now, the difference between where Vex is basically playing the mini king of the hill on the high ground, and what we just saw from Gaming Gladiators where they got pinched by KCP and Vex, the position where Vex is has that slight high ground advantage, and they're looking to their backs to make sure that the other rotation choke point to the left of them isn't going to put them in a sandwiching situation versus the likes of IG that's playing on the low ground, or any other squad that's going to rotate on the high ground through the train tracks where Horizon was.
I mean, that's a very good point, because you know that Alliance drops Thermal Station, and they will be one of those teams to come out through that chokehold as we get this beautiful POV from the crypto drone overlooking where all the teams are kind of nestled up. And you mentioned the Watson fences like Picasso. I'm thinking like my 8th grade geometry class that I was probably sleeping through, because, you know, video games are obviously more important. Just kidding, stay in school, kids. But we got a good moment from Ember. You got Fricks, Bavis, Young Hong Kong. This is one of those teams that I spoke of briefly in that pre-show with Rain Day and you. They need to perform. They're finding themselves just outside that top 10, and going into that regional final, if you find yourself outside the top 9, yeah, you can get more points and really try to get into there, but you find yourself in that must-win scenario. And when you're going up against teams like Ascend that are statistically proven to have the best ability to put together a map win, you really don't want to hedge your bets. Get yourself in that top 9, but currently dipping and dodging and just going under fire, and unfortunately Fricks is going to fall.
The G7 has just been an insane tool for a lot of these teams to utilize, especially in these long-range situations. It's Corpa, another squad that absolutely needs to perform. They're sitting in 28th in the overall leaderboards, and with so many other squads in the middle of the rotation exiting out of Lava Siphon, Corpa could definitely capitalize off of this. Love how you highlighted Ember, because, yeah, they're sitting in 15th, or actually, rather, 16th in the overall standings, and they just lost out on their Valkyrie, so no Skyward Dive on the board for them to make the rotation into that next circle.
Oh, and they're just going to absolutely get punished. Bavis forced to throw out the black hole and just kind of disengage from this, throwing all of the nades that they had availability. But you see it right there. The team is just going to full send upon them, jumping down, going for that challenge. And now they're going to lose out because Young Hong Kong, last man standing for Ember, not looking too hot for them. Probably going to go out here soon.
Yeah, Tiff, I'm also seeing that so many other squads are making their appearance into this fight. This fight was lasting just way too long for Corporate to try to capitalize off of, as one last member of Emperor stays standing. At least it's the Seer from Young Hong Kong, so we can see where the other players are trying to rotate from using the Heartbeat Center. It's Game of Drones who have now made their way into the third party. Could there be a potential fourth party here? The EMP coming out now as Game of Drones have the high ground currently. They gotta look to their rights. I also believe 3 Muppets is in the area here too, south of Corpa.
Ain't no party like a 4th and 5th party, but Rondon throwing down a lot of damage with that beautiful R301 courtesy of Big Mod. And we talked about a lot of these. I did just see a good bunch of car SMG action, which is honestly, surprisingly, not too bad at mid-range, but why utilize that when you've got that R301? They are just really finding some good eliminations here early on, but really not overextending and full sending into the fight to really control the space that they've got. Because if you look at their back end, there's still a slight portion of the map that is in ring on the other side of that hill, so you don't want a team to come behind you.
Oh, and there's so much action happening on the other side of the edge of the circle. We just saw the res coming in from Corpa. They utilized that mobile respawn beacon that they put down with that last member of the Seer from Young Hong Kong from Corpa being able to pull that off. Means that with all the action happening around them between Game of Drones and 3 Muppets, then they're going to be able to actually move away from that. Wondering here, is Ember going to be able to just get away out of the fray? Maybe they could rotate through the outskirts of the next circle, go to Lava Siphon. This ring is going to be closing in soon, and Corpa are actually going to try to take control over the side of the circle.
Yeah, my question is Corpora going to try to hold out some of the teams that are in the area or just keep focusing forward? Because you don't want to make sure that you're leaving your back open, even if it's to the ring. Double check it. You mentioned that res coming in. But I want to highlight Zerifer on Corpa. Recently subbed in with the Guard to play some tournaments this week with them. And it was really cool because we highlighted Rambo a lot. And watching Zeri play with Rambo was just an absolute highlight. And Rambo just consistently hyped him up. So I was really excited to see how they performed here in EMEA. But Game of Drones right now taken to the sky, wanting to reposition themselves just ahead of this Harvester choke point, because I feel like any fight that you get into in Harvester is just one of those moments where you subject yourself to that 4th, 5th, and 6th party.
Yeah, because you have to think about the squads that could be rotating away from Fragment West south through that choke point that leads into Harvester. Probably other squads within this area. Game of Drones did find themselves inside the safety of this building. They again have the Seer, so they can utilize the Crypto Drone without having to overextend, while also using the Heartbeat Sensor of the Seer. They see the line of Watson fences actually right above them, and some shots actually trying to take some shots at the drone, so maybe trying to figure out which of the squads that have that high ground advantage. Another squad that isn't having the best time of their life right now, it's got to be Kumbra from the 3 Muppets. Unfortunately, isn't able to collect the 2 banners of his 2 teammates that go down, but this also means he doesn't have the Valk for that rotation. So he's got that jump tower right in front of him, but he's got to play with the health disadvantage with only 2 syringes to his name while he's outside of the circle.
Yeah, this is not looking good. 1 med kit, 1 Phoenix kit. You are going to have to time this perfectly right, and within 2 minutes, that health is going to start ticking down astronomically. Luckily, you're just outside thermal station, finding another bit of Phoenix kits. There we go. So you at least have 2 available to you, but you got to hit the road. You got to get back into the ring and pray that no one is looking towards that side, because you know that all of these teams are so well versed in watching their backside, clearing their 6 essentially, instead of just playing it forward. That's the role of the IGL. I touched on it a little bit the last time I was on the mic. Your IGL has to be completely aware of all the teams around you, who is fighting what and where, and being able to direct your teammates to the best of their success. And honestly, I don't envy the IGL's role. I have a lot of respect under them. The first one you look at when things are going wrong, and they're definitely not thanked enough when things are going right.
And when you talk about the IGL, that's why I really love multi-view, because then you can just take some notes to see how you can IGL your own games in terms of communication, the rotations, and the information that some of these squads need to use. As Horizon take to the sky, so they're actually getting pinged and pressured out by other squads in the area. The EMP is going to come out, and Horizon are going to be able to take over the situation underneath the bridge. But without other squads finding them in their line of sight, they get absolutely blasted. 0-0 going down. They still stuck into the crevice. There's a squad right behind them. Where do you hide? You can't go anywhere. And that's the risk of the skyward dive when you decide to move into that next circle at the very end. It's E6 that capitalize, but they lose out in life.
Hey, this is a moment where they really do need to capitalize. They started out incredibly strong on their match day number 1, breaking out Lifeline and winning some maps. as well, but unfortunately have been rather lackluster ever since. So I'm looking to K-Swinny, Slayers, and Co. I want them to get this reset and kind of just take control of it. You can see the res going off just shortly. Well, able to get him back up, finding some KP along the way, but there's 17 squads remaining and the chaos is just beginning, Vicky.
Look at this. They have to share the building too with the squad that's right above them. You highlight E6 and the use of Lifeline. They've changed things up a lot to stay more consistent, and it's KCP that have the high ground right above them on top of this bridge. Okay, Max Strafey trying to take a little cheeky off angle. It's okay. We didn't see that. We didn't see you miss the rock real quick. You're on the Valkyrie. You can get right back to the high ground and to the safety of your team. But you saw him trying to take a nice little cheeky angle with the Kraber in his hand, wondering if he could find an angle on E6 underneath them. KCP know exactly where they're at because they're one of the teams blocking the crypto. And it's nice to highlight that there are 8 crypto squads in this lobby right now. We saw the Bloodhound from E6, and they're one of 2 squads rocking the Bloodhound, but KCP taking some of these cheeky angles are going to continuously pressure out this squad. Max Strafey gets one knock onto Young Hong Kong. Ember not having a great time.
Definitely not a great time when you're looking down the barrel of a Kraber in the hands of Max Strafey. So able to find a lot of success and just throw down some punishment here. I just want to harp on Nasky as the IGL of Pioneers here just a little bit. Yesterday played in the tournament Clara's Legends. I know Rain Day was a portion of that environment as well. And Nasky had to actually relegate some of that IGL responsibility and take orders from a female IGL. And just watching his face and his eyes and trying to keep shut on those moments was really exciting, and I hope he learned some things as well and can bring that here today, because in my opinion, one of the top IGLs, I know we're always talking about who they are, and I know Fallout in particular as well, but I personally think Nasky is one of the best ones in the EMEA region.
Yeah, Nasky also very positive member in the competitive Apex space. Absolutely love talking to Nasky. There's never a time where I don't see him with a smile on his face, so he brings a very positive attitude to the rest of his team. I like this position that KCP have taken because we've seen the circle actually end up exactly on this bridge before, and you're outside of a lot of the chaos from the squads that are playing off the high ground, that are in the middle of the rotation, exiting out of the beacon that's on the outskirts of that lava siphon area, rather leaving thermal station into the north side by the geyser south of Lava Fisher. So they're out of the fray, but Vex Gaming can't say the same thing because they've lost out on Unlucky, and now they're actually trying to pick up that banner. They've successfully gotten that banner downloaded, and they have the mobile respawn that they can call in as well, so that way they can get that res potential.
Yeah, and they do have really great positioning in this ring with this, like the building is just uncontested. No one is really near this. They've got a line of sight and information on all the teams that are surrounding them, so they should have no issue being able to bring in that mobile respawn. They're just kind of getting punished by nearby cryptos and really just farming up these shields. And now the best time to get Unlucky back in the game is now, but the issue is once that mobile respawn beacon goes down, I think it's going to send a signal to all the teams around them, hey, we have that major disadvantage. We're down in numbers. You probably have an advantage on us, and we want that. We want that. We're going to take advantage of that situation and full push you.
Especially with the spot that they're in right now, that's going to be a green light for the other squads to know that they would have the number advantage in their favor if they wanted to be able to claim that building instead. You see some of the chaos still happening in the building. KCP trying to get that res onto Nasky. Max Strafey still has the Kraber in his hand. Is there a squad right above him sharing that bridge, that railroad track spacing here? Nasky needs to reset. He is able to go back online, and we have one of the Gibbies in the squad actually in the lobby right now. The only Gibby that we have currently in the lobby. Nice crack here. Nice shot with the Kraber. Let's jump into a listening with the Pioneers while they're able to reset.
Got you cracked. Knock the guy you cracked.
Crack another.
I'm gonna walk up and nade that. Yeah, do it, though.
Right.
Bro. I naded it. Shoot, Max, shoot.
Got my last shot.
I'm coming back.
I might go down.
I'm good. I got my kill.
I don't get my kill over here, look. You have a drone.
Yes, but look at Babos. I need to save EMP. Yeah, well, you just gotta stay alive. We have a really good spot. Don't overextend. Okay. Joe, the bubbles should be fading soon. Like 3, 2, 1. Remember, team underneath us, guys. No more police and Kraber?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
Oh, jadi kayak gitu ya kok Valkyrie ya. Dia harus ditembak dulu baru keluarin skill biasa. Halo ya nonton.
Guys, they can't res that. I'm pretty sure they can't.
Baru tahu aku.
Listen.
Hah, R45? Gue senjata itu.
Okay. This is
pistol.
one of our kills right here, Nasty, behind this rock.
Yep.
Gibby! Oh. We have a...
Waduh,
Dropping 46, I have a stack now. Okay,
anjir 11 squad, cuk.
There's some more in the box here too, I can loot.
11 squad zonanya
Okay.
kecil banget.
Look at me. Yeah, I am.
They go pushing us.
Okay.
I'm ready on us. 50 to 1, 70 to another.
We need a new gen. Gen is broken. I don't have gen. No gen. I'm netting them.
I'm not
outside
involved.
the right here.
Area.
I'm gonna impede them. Okay. We push.
Okay.
You ready?
60 to 1,
Go now. Go. Full dive. Die on them.
70 to 1, 70 to 1.
Die on them. Good job.
Wah gila, sumpah keren banget cuy.
Careful, Max. We can go back.
Go back.
Keren.
I have only one big battery.
Pertamanya kriptonya tuh ulti pakai drone-nya, udah itu pecah shield-nya tuh mereka langsung datang, langsung ngeras. Gila, keren.
We knew he was biting his tongue yesterday in Clara's
Keren
Legends
sih.
tournament, but he is letting it all fly here today, and it is paying off tenfold.
We did
Their
back.
positioning is absolutely beautiful, and even if those teams are trying to challenge them for that positioning, I think that they're doing a really good job at holding it out. But you can see right here, Heroes on the top right of your screen just holding this mountain, utilizing that Newcastle wall. They have Yuchako on the Watson as well. So the question is,
Wah, sinyal,
that is
Cuk.
one of my most favorite god spots. Eventually the ring will pull away from them and they'll have to jump off into the open arms of the team surrounding them. But if they can pick up some eliminations while they're up here, I think that would be really good for the Heroes team.
But where do they go at this point? With 6 squads left in this lobby, you got Heroes, Pioneers, E6, Turkish Stars, IG International, and LFL Forever left in this lobby. And look how they're sharing the
Sebelahan
wall
doang.
and on the
Enggak,
bridge
itu di
right
belakang,
now.
di bawah
It is
jembatan.
absolutely chaotic once the circle
Sebelahan
closes
doang
right
deh, cuy.
behind Heroes to their backs.
I love that you mentioned the teams that are left in the lobby. Ascend not being one of them, going out in a little bit of that mid-map chaos. Another EMP going down on
gila,
your
di
screen.
mapnya.
We saw IG finding some success on that last A versus B matchup, and JMW on the absolute gunny right there, frying and finding some good shots. But the question is, can they navigate this cliff on the low ground when they're being punished by incoming Arc Stars and they're not able to get the best angles on the team above them?
Yeah, that, and they don't have the Watson ult right there to negate those Arc Stars coming in, to negate this pressure. They're literally dancing, sliding, zipping, and flying here through IG
gila,
International,
mereka
playing
mainin
off this low ground,
Valkyrie-nya,
while
cuy.
also trying to get out of the line of sight of
Keren
KCP
banget.
and the squad that has the high ground on them. They get a knock on the high ground, but they can't fully send it. They can't give up the space underneath them because now KCP are making their move onto Heroes and the other squad that was on the trade tracks.
Yeah, Heroes already losing out on a couple people during that Element 6 fight, who is now out of the lobby as well. We are down to the 5 remaining
Zona
squads.
terakhir
And
dong,
I
5
love the
squad
ability
lagi.
of Max Strafey to be able to utilize that Valk passive and be able to jump up and down on the top of the bridge, but holding that mid ground. And you can just see the absolute chaos ensuing as all of these teams forced to collapse upon one another. That ring is closing, and the question is, can the low ground team survive? Because usually you want to have ultimate high ground, but the KCP utilizing this mid ground very effectively.
Yeah, they called this circle out beautifully. That's Nasky out here. We have to highlight it again. And Max Strafey's got the RE45. I mean, if the Craze Bird wasn't enough, it's got to be the RE45. Shooting it up with the Disruptor rounds. Here comes the Turkish Stars, the squad, and the only squad rocking the Gibby. Now trying to close in the gap up to KCP. May have reached them. Max Strafey going down and Nasky falling incredibly low. Right underneath Heroes, who have managed to make their way from the high ground. 4 squads left right now. Heroes, Pioneers, Turkish Stars, and IG International. Now being the only 2 squads left, it's Heroes versus IG International.
Well, you've only got one member left of
Ini
Heroes.
mana yang
IG
champion?
International looking to double down off that continued success in match day number 4 against this group, and they do just that, coming out
Yang
on top
tadi nih yang
here
champion.
in map number 1. Congratulations
Bukan.
to this team.
Love seeing IG still stay as consistent as they possibly can right now. This is a
Nice.
squad that was sitting in the overall standings in 6th place, and they're looking to still stay on top. Like you mentioned, where was Ascend? KCP obviously staying as consistent as they could be, calling out where that final circle was going to be pulling. But a lot of the chaos was happening on the high end of that bridge.
Hey, well, let's
Halo yang
bring in
nonton,
Ray Day,
halo.
'cause I want to hear his thoughts. You know he was probably watching that, because we got to see a lot of success from some of the teams yesterday as they kind of dabbled in their pro players on Clara's Legends tournament. And, you know, I'm really excited. So come on in, Ray Day. Let's hear your thoughts.
I'm excited too. It was great to see KCP as well. I think they did a great job. Take a break. I believe I'm going to be hanging out with Vicky here, talking a little bit here about what happened in game number 1. It was an interesting story for me. One of the cool things I saw, Vicky, let's take a look at the numbers, because Heroes, a team that has, I think, about 10, 11 points so far just in game 1. They're sitting right now in, I think, 27th place in the league. If they continue to put on a show like this, top 5, something like that, that's a massive amount of points that gets them into not having to play in a relegation and try to get back into the Pro League. So we've got stories on the bottom. Switching it up, though, Vicky, obviously IG International, we asked, can they have a great performance again? Clearly, they're starting off the right way.
Starting out very strong with that W and a lot of KP to their name, especially with the rotation that they made, as patient as they could play underneath that bridge, because they looked like they were in a pretty tight position. I love how you highlighted Heroes, because the fact that they were able to stay on that Pride Walk in that final circle and not get contested when they were forced off that high ground, they're the only team rocking the Newcastle. So that Newcastle wall definitely came in clutch in helping them get out of the line of sight of the other squads that wanted to pressure them, looking at E6 when they were tossing grenades in their direction.
Bit of a conversation too about Newcastle and the ability for the castle wall and the character itself to actually be taken not for granted. I think I saw Alvarelli and a few teams talking a little bit about, you know, is it really good? Is it really not good? It's interesting. I think it's clearly good. I think Newcastle clearly has value here at the highest of levels, and we're going to see it here as we take a look back at match 1. It was Invictus Gaming who kind of dominated things off, but KCP, they had a good start. Ember here with a couple of kills, Vicky, and you know the story. Although it did end with Invictus, we saw some good performances from several teams.
Yeah, with Invictus, JMW specifically popped off. I mean, they secured so much KP, but we saw a lot of action happening on the southern part of this circle when it came to rotating from the southeastern side of things. Corpa got involved in some fights over by Tree. We saw some very risky skyward dives, specifically from Horizon, that got beamed in every direction from the squads that already made the rotation into that bridge. Corpa making sure that they could continuously play edge, allow them to also secure a lot of KP before they were inevitably taken out.
JMW, Graceful, and of course Noises. This team adjusted quite a lot here, leaving Bryn onto the side and taking an inactive roster spot and adding Graceful into the mix. And these two have been called super subs in many ways. Performed quite well at LAN. Graceful, one of the winners with Dark Zero in that Sweden LAN, and doing such a good job of really helping Cloud9 as well when in playoffs be able to have that IGL role and really add to the squad. This is something that now put together seems very, very dangerous, Vicky. Element 6 also popping off a bit here. And KCP, I mean, you know, and this is a good start for Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. I mean, can we see them kind of jump into the higher echelons, what they've been waiting just to get their team together?
Yeah, and when they dropped down from that bridge area, they did lose out on Max Rigby, unfortunately. Turkish Stars did capitalize, the only squad also rocking the Gibby, but they also took way too much damage from the squads that were able to drop down from the high ground. Looking at IG, obviously, who are also playing off the low ground before Turkish Stars had to drop down. Look at this, into the lovely line of sight of Noises, JMW to follow up, and IG taking that nice, strong first game.
International.
11 KP, so double digits are ready to start off our day here in Amir.
Wow, that is a great showcase here of what IG Internationals are doing, but we talk about Heroes, and really that's the storyline at the bottom of the table. 27th in the overall standings, making a big showcase here in game number 1, that this will be a day that changes their fate. Also, Turkish Stars representing here with 8 points. Pioneers rounding out the top 3 with 13. That's a good showcase for Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. Let's take a look on the bottom side of things too. Vexed, a team that's performed really consistently. Actually a pretty decent start. 6 points ain't bad for game 1 that doesn't go your way, but Alliance, pretty surprising. And Gaming Gladiators as well, Vicky.
I was going to talk about Gaming Gladiators because we highlighted so much in the pre-show how the squad needs to perform today. This is not how you start off your day here, especially when one of your best maps is on World's Edge. And since we made the transition into starting on World's Edge, I was expecting more from this squad. Finishing last, they got choked up. I believe they got pitched between 2 squads, between Vex and KCP, and that's what happens when you make in some of these early rotates, feeling like you're safe to take some of these early fights, and then you find yourself pinched instead.
Well, here's how it stands after 1. IG International take a nice lead. Pioneers and Heroes staying close to the top. Forge, lucky to have, I believe, Phoenix back in the mix. They're in a nice 6th spot alongside Element 6 and Turkish Stars, all tied with 8 points, but it comes very, very close after that. Gaming Gladiators, Alliance, 2 big teams, as well as Natus Vincere, 2-6. Very, very surprising. Can they change that up? Well, game 1 showed us that Heroes we're here to have a heroic day, and IG International are looking as good as ever. Will they keep it up? Will Gaming Gladiators finally get to the top of the board like they did last time A versus B met? We'll find out as match 2 is coming up after this.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ALGS Rain Day here alongside Vicky Kitty. Match 2 is about to get underway as Game 1 ended with IG International taking a massive W there. Noises alongside Graceful and JMW doing what they do best, getting dubs and making sure that people know and respect their names. But also big surprises from the bottom side of the table. And Vicky, I got to also kind of bring this up. Ascend, a team that we feel like should be in this conversation all the time at the top, still starting a little bit slow today. We'll see if they can pick it up here in game 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Ascend usually finds that momentum early on, and they start ramping things up throughout their day. Maybe just a bit of a flood that they weren't expecting in that first game, but I'm expecting great things from this squad going on with their consistency and their record-breaking numbers that we've seen in the past in the Pro League. But also talking about squads that did surprise me in a positive way, squads that need to perform. Turkish Stars, they've been sitting in the 26 overall leaderboards on the bottom end, threatening to be basically relegated into the qualifiers. So the fact that they had a really great game, Corporal also getting involved into these aggressive fights early game, really does highlight the pacing that some of these teams are opting to take, so that way they can secure themselves at least in a nice safe spot to be able to play in the Pro League.
And I think that's where we're going to see today start to evolve. We have these two storylines now running. Do you get a chance to play at LAN? Do you get a chance to qualify? Or do you just stay in Pro League? Because anything can happen when you have to go through qualifiers. You do not want to put yourself in that type of situation. Teams are fighting for their lives here. And already in game 1, we're seeing the tone get set when it comes to fighting. That's right. IG International on the top of the first one. Will it continue to stay there, or will somebody else claim the crown? It was close from Heroes. Good showcase. KCP as well in the mix. Who will we see as we head into match 2 and the dropship lands us here over World's Edge?
Love how you highlighted Heroes, because aside from Turkish Stars, that's another team that absolutely must perform to avoid getting relegated into the qualifiers. Now, to kind of go recap for those of you guys tuning in right now, welcome, of course, to the ALGS, the EMEA region, always a treat to watch. We had one of our circles pulled towards the bridge side of staging, which should have benefited the likes of Vex Gaming. That is their drop spot, and they did have high ground before inevitably getting dove on squads that wanted to try to circle them. Alliance also taking a very patient route into holding that choke point north of Thermal Station. But we have another southern circle now looking at game number 2, and Gaming Gladiators could definitely walk away with an advantage standpoint here, since they usually have the beacon in the middle, Lava Siphon, and all that loot to work with when it comes to sharing some of that space in the north side of Lava Siphon with IG.
A little worried about Gaming Gladiators not starting off strong. World's Edge is definitely a place that they get most of their wins throughout these tournaments. In fact, in round 3, that was where in day number 4 they got their first win at the last game of World's Edge. But they started off pretty slowly as well, 14th and 15th. So maybe it is a pretty similar approach. It takes them just a couple games to get going. After that win, though, in round 3, they switched to Storm Point. They got a 2nd, a 5th, and a 10th place perspective, which allowed them to get which allowed them to get number 1 overall in the day. So we'll see if Gaming Gladiators can kind of start a little stronger. Vicky, that might just be, how this team gets going. But you got to talk also just about the fact that they're not playing as a full team. They've got Sunset coming in replacement for Artico, and that is a mental shift, and it's also an emotional shift as well. Hardecki, I've mentioned it before, an emotional player, and plays well when he's on his high. When he's not, it can affect his performance, and so we'll see if he can get over the fact of losing one of his long-term teammates here and work with Sunset, who's a very talented player today, and get a result.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sunset, in his own regard, is a very talented player. He's put in results himself. And so with this player being on the squad, the only thing you have to worry about is the consistency that the team feels in terms of their comfort. And you take a look at the top 10 and what went down in that first game. It was a very nice KP spread across the board for a lot of our squads. Like you mentioned, Heroes really did have that pop-off moment. They secured 9 KP. IG, though, had obviously not just the dub, but the double-digit KP on the board. As we look at Forge, one of our other squads that definitely needs to perform out here today. Believe it finished in 6th place overall after that first game. So they got some points to their name, as you can see right there. Number 4th with 8 points in the overall standings for today alone after that first game. It's one of our squads that are already making their quick rotation, though, out of Fragment. Nice to note with a lot of other squads. Quickly just trying to hold on to that final circle positioning without getting circle cut by a lot of squads that have been opting to play more on the edge.
Echo Esports, Element 6, Not a Sincere also on the edge as well, alongside Turkish Stars, who had a great start in game number 1. They will be playing a little bit late here. Forge already on the Skyward Dive, prioritizing getting into the mix. But that mix, oh boy, you better bring something to help stave off the contest, because there are a lot of people already here trying to find some space in this building. But getting shot from afar. Forge already feels the pressure. Row almost going down, only on a white. Phoenix also getting hit, and that's it. Forge, they make a Skyward Dive early, but we talked about it, Vicky. It is a dangerous proposition, and they've just felt the danger there.
They just basically got deleted. And the unfortunate timing on throwing out the Zero when you already saw the EMP startup animation happen, that means that you just used up that Zero for basically no reason out here. You basically panic in this situation because so many other squads were taking shots at you. But that's the risk of the Skyward Dive. Yeah, we still have that one member left of the squad. Hopefully he can get away, at least get those banners in time with so much fighting happening on the other side of Lava Sight.
Well, Vicky, this is the conversation I like to have when people think about, are you hard edge or you rotate teams, right? Or you get into the circle soon. It's not as simple as that. A lot of the conversation actually ends up being, well, okay, we'd like to rotate early. That's our style. But are we late? Are we too late to it? And if we are, if we make a play like Forge, we're giving up our chances to even compete in this game. So yes, we like to get in there early, but this game we just have to, we missed our chance, we missed our opportunity. Teams are already there, it's too south, and we have to play this differently. And I think that is one of the things we don't see. Sometimes those lines between hard edge rotate and getting in the zone are blurred between these squads, as you saw the impact there from Forge as IG International set up here.
And Forge completely get deleted off the lobby, and they're going to be meeting with Vex Gaming in the lobby too, because Vex is actually the first squad to go down here as another EMP gets unleashed over in Lava Siphon. IG getting involved, still trying to put more numbers to their scoreboard after an amazing first game. But in that clean 3v3 fight, I have to highlight, we didn't see it right now on the stream, but Alliance just completely cleaned up Vex in the middle of the rotation. Vex do land in staging, and Alliance land in thermal. So that means in the middle of trying to rotate towards Lava Siphon, Alliance just had that cleaner fight against Vex. So that must be very interesting to see how that's going to weigh out on Vex Gaming after this game here. IG, the winners of game number 1, as we tune into them, they're not going to be moving in from this place with their team composition. They want to hold into this building with the Watson and play as patiently as possible without having to overcommit for any sort of information from the crypto draft.
Alliance doing a great job of righting wrongs of last season, barely making it into championships, having to perform at the last minute and to make and qualify for LAN. Right now sitting in 5th with 57 points in the overall standings. A good result here would certainly put them in a pretty comfortable position heading into only 2 more days left, even if they don't win that final day to qualify on points. So Alliance taking out one of the contests, one of the potential leaders there in Vexed. It's a good start for them. Yuki was also performing yesterday, played in a tournament, and had a nice couple of 1v2s. Such a talented individual player. and great personality as well in the scene and community of Apex Legends. So they've got the skills, they've got the squad. It's just about, can they put it together in the highest of moments. Not as Vincere though. This is a team that I've been disappointed in, Vicky, and I think it's because we know that they've got potential. Sonya, Rugby, Dazo have been incredible players over the course of EMEA's history in the ALGS, and not able to get things done.
Definitely have to echo that too. I was expecting much bigger things here from Na'Vi. They're sitting on the cusp of being potentially relegated into the qualifiers, and the only squad that's actually rocking the Mad Maggie today in this lobby. So bringing something different, which has found success for at least other squads here. Hopefully Na'Vi could find a very similar line of success, because they absolutely need to perform. They didn't perform in the last game either. I mean, they unfortunately fell in 19th overall in the first game, so taking a much more passive, slower pace here into this game. They're playing by the choke point of Geyser, where no squad lands. There's probably already a squad that did rotate in this direction. I can see open doors, but it's the fact that they're just taking a much more passive approach, playing on the edge.
Trying to hold this choke point here, because there usually are a few teams that try to make their way in, and they can tell the timing of the zone. 2 minutes and 9 seconds left. There will be a squad. In fact, it's Echo Esports on the other side. And this is who Na'Vi kind of sniffed out, knowing might be playing very, very close to them. You can see Echo overlooking just the area below them, trying to find a couple of shots. Just with a long 4 to 8 times, and the Sentinel with 53 in the magazine. Plenty of shots there for Zuni. Echo Esports trying to move in.
With the Echo Esports looking at all the Watson fences in front of them, wondering, man, there's so much already of space bought by so many of these teams rocking the Watson. It would be a shame if a Crypto just slid in here and used that EMP to ruin everything. But in this position that Echo's in, basically doing something what Navi's doing on the other side of that rock to the right, and it's holding these choke points away from the squads that are slow rotating outside of fragments. So Echo Esports, another team that absolutely needs to get those points, needs to get those KT, because they're also sitting in the relegating spot in 29th overall, second to last place currently right now in the EMEA region.
Very interesting. Obviously spotting out a drone here, trying to finish that off. It is Element 6 who they're looking at, and that is what Zuni has noticed. Behind the rock, we can see those outlines, but they do not. They just have the intel that there's a team that they're gatekeeping here. Again, 49 seconds before this zone starts to move in, so they'll have a chance to take a roundabout shot. Nice 63, leading the bullet there on the Sentinel. Not the easiest of shots, but simple for Zuni on the Seer, as again they look at the Watson fences, realizing there's really not a lot of real estate there to hold. We've got to just play this, and we've got to make sure too, if Element 6 want to come our way and take our backside, we're going to let them know we're not going to give it up without a fight. And it's actually deterred Element 6. They've taken the roundabout way towards Harvester to try to make it into the zone, and possibly will end up running into Turkish Stars. But a good showcase of force from Echo Esports. It seems to have worked for now.
Yeah, keeping up the pressure, although with some of the noise that they're making with the Sentinel shots, I think they've already called it where they're going to start rotating downhill, because all the other squads are going to keep them in their sides, the squads especially that have taken control over the buildings north of Lava Siphon. KCP, again, always on top of where the circle is going to be pooling. We've seen the circle pool actually over on top of that exact building that they're on right now, sometimes even on the outskirts north of the side. So they're in a really good spot and already breaking some pressure, at least, onto the squad that's also sharing the building to their left, letting them know, you know what, we got our Watson set up as well. We've set up our own perimeter. So many Watson fences already lined up on the Lava Siphon side of things, and they're also going to be able to get information with the Crypto drone, maybe on the other squads that are rotating away from Geyser, or even Echo traveling from the high ground to the low ground uphill that fight.
Crypto been a big part of this meta in EMEA, and I think in North America too. A legend that has constantly been featured in these high moments, and we've seen it utilized better than anyone by Shara, IGL of Ascend, who have taken the top spot for most of these weeks. 4 points behind in the overall leaderboards by Aurora, who've just been a very, very consistent team, but they've got a chance again to retake it, Ascend, with a win here. 6 in terms of points, having an 8-point start. We feel like that's a good sign. In fact, it puts them in the top 10, but we just expect so much from them, Vicky, that if they're not number 1, we're like, where is Ascend? And right now you can see Pioneers and Ascend maybe going at it. Nasky saying, Dell and Max and I, we've been playing this Crypto for a long time, Ascend. We're not worried about you and what you can do. We know how to do this just as well. So if you got an EMP, we got one for you too.
Yeah, and deleting that Watson ult too, just kind of poking on the outskirts of where KCP have in their line of sight. The one thing that this playstyle goes against for these squads that want to hold on to these final circle positioning with the Crypto and the Watson fences is the lackluster loot that they're working with, which is something that these teams are willing to trade, which is why we do see more North America in more Loba in North America. That way you're not denied the loot that you want to work with. But nice little shot from the Sentinel right there, hitting a quick 70 at the same time. KCP are going to be using up their shield cells, but do they have enough meds to work with while being patiently wait out on some of these other DMs?
Benefits of the interception pylon, huh? You get to regen those shields while you're hanging in the building. Obviously, you're going to wait till your ult comes back up, but it does get desperate. And if you are patient enough, you'll be able to do it. 91 on the head. Sonya showing what the 30-30 can do. No skull piercer in there as well, so that would have very much hurt. But not as sincere, still looking for their first point. Sonya trying to push a little bit off that and take some space, knowing that the heal has to go down. That player cannot poke their head back, and very smartly from Na'Vi, take the building next door. So now they're in a position, they're in zone. Sometimes it's as simple as that, Viggy. Just a headshot, take the space. It's clever from Not as Sincere, and they've already got a point right there.
Lights are popping off, by the way. They wipe out another squad in Lava Siphon and uncontested, so they're doing it in such a timely manner. Send! Fully dive out to KCP while we were looking at this other squad. They take control over this building. They come out on top, and they got shield swaps for days.
Have we answered the question of who is the better crypto squad? I certainly think they have. It's now time for a rebuttal in game 3 or later on in the day for KCP, but that is not going to go well with Nasky, Strafe, and Dell. They are taken out. We didn't even see it, but it was absolute chaos. And can you believe it? We asked for them to show up, Vicky. 6 kills already, and there's still 14 squads left for Ascent.
It's insane. And we were also talking about the point of Alliance wiping out another squad. I think that was Gaming Gladiators that they cleaned up. Obviously not a good show for game number 2 already for Gaming Gladiators, if that happens to be the case in that Lava Siphon area. But Ascend now taking control over this building means they got the loot to work with. They got the Evo shields to swap to. And like you mentioned, that pylon's going to be able to allow Ascent to also regenerate their shields without having to use up too many meds. And they're also going to be able to share both these. I mean, if one building isn't enough, I guess you can just make it 2. Let's get that 2-for-1 deal going on here for Ascent.
But you know what I like? Even if they don't hold this building, right? They can show presence in it with the Watson fences. And they can get the loot. They can drag the loot out there and obviously pick up shield cells, go drop them back off in the building they want to prioritize holding. And also, they'll just discourage teams from going in there. They don't know if someone's in there immediately. They're going to see the Watson fences, and they're probably not going to try for it unless it gets desperate. So that's just going to give more space to Ascend. It's good play from Postkill and good IGL from Kashira, who is desperately hoping to make it to land and bring his dad there to watch him compete. It certainly seems like he is a man on a mission, and that mission is looking successful so far. Turkish Stars with 9 points on the day, sitting in 7th, as they are on the edge of this. Nobody really contesting them, and they've got zone to their back, so they feel confident. But the team to their right is Alliance, as we head over to a fight happening near Geyser. Girl Corpa getting into it here with an Arc Star, trying to start things. Oh, but a lot of damage Trix is taking here.
Oh, he needs to back up. He needs to suppress fire from the rest of Corporal, who are one of those edge squads currently right now. They're fighting off against 3 Muppets on this choke point of Geyser, and they have less than a minute to be able to finish off this fight as quickly as they can. The EMP now setting 3 Muppets up way from behind. They need to try to get this res and potentially here. Plum can actually pull up the shield back.
Interception pylons going down as well. Game of Drones still keeping the pressure with Torch on top, and Jules just trying to get a different angle. Obviously has the crypto, and so whether it's just getting that momentary angle while being able to compete and still have impact with the drone, or just getting out, it's up to 3 Muppets to decide if they feel like this fight is worth it, and I'm not sure that they do. Game of Drones also pulling back. Corpa still alive, and they get the res. So 3 teams here in the mix. Game of Drones getting out of there. 3 Muppets still around trying to gatekeep because there's 26 seconds, and look at this. They don't have a skyward dive. Oh, maybe they do. It might be ready. It looks like they are preparing it. Thought it might have been on cooldown. Zerafer's going to be able to get them out. They've just got to survive this first part.
Yeah, this is the risk when you fight outside the circle like this, and with such limited time before that next circle closes in. You need to take the skyward dive because you're going to get circle kept by the squads that have already taken up this space from ring number 2, ring number 1. 3 Muppets are also going to take the skies, but they're working with way less health. Looking at Plum only rocking the white Evo shield, so a very rough game area here for the 3 Muppets.
Look at this. They land Corpa in the building that KCP got taken out in. Ascend, fly the drone over there, by the way. And 3 Muppets take the higher route on the building. It's a spot that can work, but it's obviously not very comfortable. You'd rather be inside in this wide open space. Corpa Matrix goes down with the exhibit. Everybody's on display in the gallery there for Seer, and so you'll get information. They feel confident holding this. Ascend have actually, I believe, in your kill feed gone and pushed out 3 Muppets from that other side of the trailer that they were playing. And so now there are maybe 7, 8 teams in this little building, in this area that we're seeing Corporal hold. Mickey, this is insane.
This means that nobody is safe right now. It's looking expensive when it comes to some of these property taxes, and now Corpo is going to be able to have to play on the outskirts of this building currently. They got the Seer, though, so they can negate any sort of healing, any sort of res, and they clean up LFO forever, who wanted to stay inside of that building. But do they push in? That's the question, with so many other windows and so much other line of sight to the other squads to take if they're playing on the outskirts of this building. Looking at the teams that are playing in the smaller buildings to the right side of Lava Site.
Alliance still to the left outside of this Phoenix Legacy and not a Spencer teams we highlighted earlier. They are actually in need of points at the bottom of our standings, and they are actually sitting in 2 great spots where the zone will end. Corpa and the rest of maybe 7 teams in our lobby aside from Ascend, all in this space. He's talked about real estate. It's $1 million+ per condo, and it's only 800 square feet if you want to stand there. But they're okay because location, baby, that's what matters. Ascend, speaking of location, they've got nobody to their back, but to their right, as you can see, Kashira kind of focusing his attention is where Element 6 and Echo Esports are. Ascend have a big decision to make. Do you try to clear out this northern side, or do you kind of play small? Don't let yourself get noticed. We'll see what Kashira and the boys decide to do as we head to a listen in with them.
They try to take the top.
One got knocked.
Okay, Lufka, don't pick. Just slide.
Lufka, you have to walk close here. Do it. Send it. Try to fly slowly and let's see what is open.
Backside of the building here.
No.
Yeah. Oh, the height, the team on height.
I took them, I turned on them.
Stay on the other side of the building,
I'm not dead.
Aduh.
To me, come.
It's my EMP post.
Okay, kill one here on me.
I need to
Oh, anjir langsung pecah sini.
Swap on this guy, no?
I'm fine.
Come to me. We're chilling here. Lufka, you need to still flying. That was too soon, man.
Fine.
Too soon.
I'm gonna res him.
Focus on your game.
I'm gonna res him.
I'm popping ultimate accelerate.
It's a duo on top post. It's a duo.
Okay, I'm popping ultimate accelerate. Give me a moment. Can you check on that?
Wow, just moments there to take a look at what post-kill and Kashira were sharing, and Lufka maybe a little bit too early on the skyward dive, Vicky.
Yeah, we heard them with the crypto drone. They just wanted to get the information, the intel, to know which space was clear for them to actually land with the skyward dive. And you can hear them in the comms basically just disagreeing that with the timing of that. With so many other teams playing on the outskirts of the circle, it's Phoenix Legacy, the squad that is sitting right now in last in the overall leaderboards in the Amir region, that predicted the circle full amazingly, and they have the safety of the inside of this building to work with.
Look at this setup. It feels like Kashira, post-kill, and Lufka just moved, but look, they're already settled. Oh, and look at this. Coming down, Echo decide to challenge this Kashira and Ascend versus Echo Esports. Ascend look to maybe knock down one. They're going to knock down another with the help of K-Swinny, and Echo will fall. Top 4 for Ascend, looking to make it number 1 on the day. It's an EMP, but not from them, and it's Element 6 with Slayers, K-Swinny, and Lifen, who are coming in to the fray with wingmans and not missing much. 18 points on the day, and the flatline spray as well. Element 6, look at this, trying to take over this tournament.
And with the Digi threat too, we highlighted the car for a reason. They're also working with the Volt. Great weapons to use, especially when you have controllers to work with here for the E6 squad. We got 3 squads left in this lobby. We got Phoenix Legacy inside the building. Ascend, who got Luca up, by the way, and E6 on the other side. I don't even know how they were able to have the time to do that with Echo dropping on top of them.
Surprised here that Element 6 are poking their heads in, but I don't think it's going to be a full commit yet. They've still got the 3 squads alive, and they've got the zone closing here. It's going to take a minute, but Kashira and Ascend, they've got to make some move happen. Element 6, go for it. get one. Slayer's looking to get another. Can he take down a Sin with the headshot? He can. And that is going to be Element 6 taking down Phoenix Legacy. A Sin goes ahead and wins. Oh my God. Somehow.
Are you kidding me, Rain Day? Are you serious? When they had to play that as a duo after their rotation with the Skyward Dive, they still got Luca up. Luca went down in that second to last fight, but they still were able to clutch and get out of the fray when Phoenix Legacy was forced to rotate outside the building. Are you kidding me, Ascend?
Unreal. Element 6 look like, in my eyes, they're taking on a Sin. They take down Phoenix Legacy. A Sin come around. What a masterclass in terms of navigating a almost unnavigable situation, right? When you can take what a Sin have done, it feels like they shouldn't have been able to do that. Tiff, as you were watching back, talk a little bit about a Sin's win and the masterclass they just put on.
Look, it's just one masterclass after another, so I hope you other teams in EMEA are watching this, because this is just to show why they have won so many matches. And now typically they are really good at setting themselves in those endgame zones and positioning themselves incredibly well. However, you could see taking kind of that underneath of the tower, things were looking a little disastrous for them. And you mentioned it, Vicky, they had to get Lufka back in after that kind of less than stellarly timed Skyward Dive, but the ability to transition and get their teammate back and then go the distance, this is how you become a champion. And it just starts here now. They are looking to go on the fray. They want to show up, get themselves a spot in that split one playoffs, and I mean, if they play like this, they might be a champ.
I don't know, Vicky. This is looking like a team that is in their rhythm, but in their rhythm in a different way than we've seen. Ascend has always been a team on top in terms of being able to win days, being able to compete, being able to be consistent, but not in this way. It feels like they've switched gears. They've hit a higher echelon of play.
Yeah, literally the most winningest team that we have in the EMEA region, and they still managed to come out on top after, in game number 1, I believe they fell in 10th place in that first game, came right back around. Even with a mispositioning on their part, they were able to restabilize, get Luca back in. They also had to negate basically 2 other squads to their back. While all of this chaos was going down, they were able to have a sense of breathing, just to kind of take a step back when other squads were fighting to the south of them, right by the outskirts of that building. So that fence line definitely helped them out once they were able to negate the damage from Echo Esports, who dropped on top of them.
Yeah, and Tiff, I mean, you know, there were good performances across the board. KCP had a moment. Obviously, they ran into Ascend. Everyone really ran into Ascend. But Phoenix Legacy, Element 6, making it into that top 3. Phoenix Legacy desperately needing those points.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix Legacy, they have to adapt a lot. They've played with a plethora of different teammates. G Dolphin most recently subbing in for them and no longer playing with them as well. So Alpha Draft joining that roster, and clearly something is working out. But you see this moment where Pioneers are able to occupy these buildings, and something that we wouldn't have expected was Ascend to fully ape them in their building and take their positioning. But I think that's just going to show you how Ascend is kind of adapting to the scenarios. I kind of asked this question in the pre-show. Can they find success against the other group B? And they are doing exactly that. You have to be able to adapt against the playstyle of the other teams throughout these groups, and that's just how you become a winner.
You know, Vicky, it takes a lot of confidence to make that push. I mean, and that really set themselves up to not have anybody at their back. And although it got even harder here as we looked at Corpa and the rest of the teams who occupied this building, didn't have to play that game. They could play their own game here on the edge.
Yeah, we saw actually in that fight between KCP and Ascend that what opened things up nicely was Luca's Arc Star that actually allowed them to take control over that building, and the outskirts brought Luca back, still managed to fight 2 squads at the same time while playing at a disadvantage, and were able to still take the game while E6 was so busy cleaning up the other squads on this side of the building.
Unreal stuff here. Element 6. Whew. There's a takedown of Luca, which is crazy, but then Phoenix Legacy end up pushing Element 6. It's just terrible timing for them because I think they actually had a kill onto Ascend. So Luca goes down yet again, and then it's ending up being post-kill in Kashera, who swing wide after the third party and end up taking down Element 6 to finish off the game. It is a second place finish for them, so not too shabby, 20 points. Only difference here is the placement, but in terms of total points, that's Ascend jumping right back up to the top. And of course, Phoenix Legacy having a good game, Tiff. But it's a nice top 10 here for some teams that definitely needed to start performing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you see IG International down there in 6th place. They're getting themselves 5 points. Not a bad game. A good showing out of Corpa, finding 8 eliminations at only 7th place, with still 11 points. I feel like anytime you can hit double digits on a match, that is the level of consistency that these teams need to kind of have a standard. But jumping on over to the page 2 results, you've got Alliance sitting in 11th, and yeah, they were able to get 7 points, but they haven't really performed to the ability that I know that Hackis probably wants them to and has a standard for themselves. You mentioned it earlier, they barely qualified for that championship land, so you want to make sure that you're getting up to that consistency and doing it here rather than later. And another disappointing thing, Vicky, it's going to be Vexed.
Yeah, Vex Gaming being the first squad to go down. And at the hands of Alliance, by the way, in the middle of their rotation, I noted it earlier on in that game, since they were the first squad to go down. Now we get to take a look at the overall leaderboards currently after that second game, and now we have Ascend tied with Element 6 and IG International. Are you kidding me? This is actually a very intense end result after game number 2.
Hold here, please don't shift. I gotta say, I can't believe the Gaming Gladiators have 0 points after 2 games. I'm a little shocked. I mean, I know I highlighted them, guys, so you know at this point it is difficult for me to come back to camera and say, wow, the team that I was looking at has 0 points after 2 games. But I also think just this is the story of gaming, and we have to keep this up because they're a team that last time won this group. They literally won this group. They got 25 points of I think the 34 that they have here, that just from a single performance, but they've got to turn it around. World's Edge typically actually a pretty decent game for them. But let's look at the final circle here one more time. And Tiff, I want to get your thoughts too, because you weren't on cast with us as well, kind of how this all worked out for Ascend. They had a lot to do, and it started with Echo dropping down on them.
Yeah, that's definitely a point, but what I noticed the most when I was watching this was Element 6. They were nestled down onto the cliffside, and I feel like when you're in an endgame circle and you're not immediately in the LOS of other teammates, you can really avoid a lot of the early on chaos, and you can see they're just kind of going up and down, and they actually kind of helped in the demise of Echo Esports, which really lent their hand to Ascend, and I feel like when they came back up, yeah, they were landing a lot of damage, but this is the moments where Phoenix Legacy started, hey, I want to get into the fray of things, as you said, and unfortunately it was just so much chaos that it could have been anyone's game, and to be honest, I didn't think Ascend was going to come out on top. The fact that they clutched this up at the very end moment with the numbers advantage stacked against them, that just goes to show you that when their backs are against the wall, they can really clutch up. They've got ice in their veins, simply put.
I mean, and Vicky, this is the moment too, because you can see Ascend are getting pressure. They're outside the building, and Phoenix Legacy, you see Ascend, they're barely alive. They just hang out later. They just show up late, and it works out for them.
Yeah, and something to note here too is that Phoenix Legacy basically put themselves in a sandwich situation between Ascend, who made the rotation on the outskirts of the fence, and then cleaned up what was left of E6. But with very good performance for E6 to show how consistent they were, because in game number 1, we saw basically something very similar from E6, where they got 5th place overall. So they still managed to stay on top in another game too.
Well, it has been a great kind of start to our EMEA broadcast, because we've seen the ups and downs of what this can do, what this type of tournament structure can do to you. We've seen teams perform like we expected. IG, Ascend, clearly they are favorites in EMEA. They might be world favorites here in terms of how consistent they've been performing after 7 days. But we've seen teams who desperately need to struggle to find their way to redemption and maybe find a little bit of hope heading into our final 2 days after this before we get to our regional finals. And, I just want to say, top-down overview, Tiff, looking at what's transpired so far, who are you having your eyes on in terms of either maybe a star performer or maybe somebody who needs to perform that you've kind of caught? You mentioned Alliance. I'm not sure if that's still who is your answer.
Yeah, I definitely think there's someone that needs to perform. I mean, obviously, Effect being the new addition to that team and kind of trying to get that kind of groove settled for them. I think they're an incredibly strong team, obviously headed up by their IGL Hackies, and incredibly strong performance. But I want to turn the tables to Vex Gaming, the team that highlighted by Vicky in that pre-show. I feel like this team likes to stack the ads against them, and yes, they can consistently get into the top 6, the top 5 at the end of the day, but taking 0 after 0 and just having some mistakes in those early games, they're just really wanting to work hard toward the ends of these matches. And we have, I believe, 4 games left for the day on this series, and why make it a little more hard for themselves? I want to see them do well here.
Well, Ascend has already climbed to the top, tied with IG. Let's see if they can keep it up as we head into game 3. Spider Tiff, Vicky Kitty, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rain. Welcome back, Tiff. I'm excited after that action in game number 2. I mean, I can't even expect how game number 3, our last game on World's Edge, is going to go down, because right after this, we're going to make the swap up over to Stormpoint. And it's nice to highlight how some of these squads feel way more in their element on World's Edge, where they can pick up that momentum and keep that consistency going on through the very beginning portion of the day. And then maybe on Stormpoint, maybe take a little bit more of a lax role if they feel like they want to play more patiently. A lot of these teams, though, often with the Crypto and Watson, have been able to make these great predictions on where the circle is going to be pulling, like we saw with KCP before Ascend pulling Sentinons.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those moments where we had that questioning. We were like, hey, can these teams that are more comfortable on World's Edge show out? And some of them actually haven't been doing so. So it's kind of like, hey, you need to step into it, be aggressive. Don't really wait till the end of the day and on Stormpoint to make that comeback. And a lot of these teams just looking for a little bit of retribution. We saw the Ring kind of pulling more center again, which is kind of good for me, Vicky, because when we had to cast those 3 climatizer zones in NA a couple match days ago, I just love a little bit of diversity here in our endgame zones. I know a lot of the analysts kind of doing the preparation during the weeks to make sure these teams are well versed, and we have IGLs like Nasty that are so incredibly intelligent. And Gaming Gladiators on your screen right now, these are one of the teams that need to kind of get on the board and get on the board now.
Yeah, and if we could take a look at the circle right now, the overview of the circle, we're basically having that southern pool of the circle again, maybe pulling towards that choke point between Fragment East into Lava Siphon. I got eyes on No Name, that's to the east side of Fragment East, that could easily get contested if there is a beacon there for a lot of our northern rotating squads. But you highlighted Gaming Gladiators. They exit out of Lava Siphon sometimes with a beacon. This time around, they don't have a beacon, but also with other squads in their eyesight. It's going to be Ascend that they're going to be pressuring out. Lufka, Kashira, and Postkill don't have the evil shields that Alliance, or rather Gaming Gladiators, are going to be able to exit Lava Siphon with.
Yeah, they're just absolutely getting punished. On the screen right now, Gaming Gladiators appears to have that upper hand. They have the shield advantage. Their weapon choices are absolutely astronomical. You got the flatline. So I feel as if they're already confident, and this would be the moment if they could get a lot of momentum kind of favoring them. I mean, Lufka, you could literally slap him up with a wet napkin, and he's got a sliver of actual health, hitting that med kit, now regenning. But you've got to get to cover, kind of reassess the scenario, and maybe take into account. But they're going to go ahead and jump on in that skyward dive and reposition themselves. I really respect this out of them. They're going to get a little bit of information and be able to take that high ground.
Yeah, I love this move too, because this circle could be pulling towards Geyser. So an early rotation here for Ascend, especially with their limited health and their white evil shields, is definitely the move. But look how many squads have already made the rotation here, landing right on top of this team. Quick reaction from Postkill to put down that fence line before actually rotating right outside the outskirts of that building, because you never know which of these squads have already taken control over the space and what Ascend really has to work with. It's heroes actually that's inside of that building.
Look, as a fellow Watson enjoyer, I just gotta say, post-kill, that fence placement was absolutely impeccable. And the ability to adapt to those skyward dives when you don't get that information of teams that are inside the buildings, so you've really got to land, react quickly, and then keep moving, especially when you don't have a lot of movement characters. Crypto, you really just gotta run. You can't use, you know, a Wraith into the void or any of that necessary, but they have a good positioning here. The jetty placement behind that supply bin is going to keep it out of the line of sight from other teams that are looking to kind of destroy that so they can inundate them with nades. But Vicky, I mean, it seems like we're going to get a Geyser zone because a lot of teams kind of joined in. There's really no available space left in these buildings.
Yeah, it's actually so congested out here. Game of Drones are in a pretty nice spot with the building that overlooks the rest of the Geyser area being on the high ground. But this early rotation could also be detrimental for a squad like Game of Drones, because not only are they going to fixate their attention over to the squad to their left, but they also have to focus on the squads that are going to be exiting out of the tunnel area, leaving the vault from No Name south side of where Geyser is.
That's a brilliant point, and I think that's a great thing to focus on. Yes, their backs are clear now, but if you're going to set yourself in a god-tier positioning moment early on in game, you have to be able to go ahead and withstand all the pressure from the teams that are looking to seat you out of that. And currently, all squads left in this, and Game of Drones right now really turning their attention to Ascend, and since they were kind of forced to Valcolt and go for positioning, you can see they don't really have the resources available to them. No shields available to them. I mean, I say that 2 shield cells, 1 bat. I don't see any meds for Lufka, so this is not the ideal scenario. And if Game of Drones is going to keep inundating with that EMP, I mean, what do you do at this point, Vicky?
Yeah, you're gonna have to unfortunately take that damage and then work with limited health as well. I mean, the only other option would be post kill and his ult, but then that's what you're gonna have to use that ult for basically, is just to replenish those shields. So Game of Drones, on the other hand, are just gonna be able to boost up their own evil shields, specifically looking at Jules with that EMP. So we absolutely take those if you're Game of Drones, and we take the space over in this building site too. I'm wondering how the other squads that take their time to rotate and play more of the edge of the circle are doing. Thinking specifically of Vex to land in staging, Alliance that land over in thermal station. I know Ember's going to be rotating through the big mod area, as well as Corpa exiting out and rotating from the south side of the map through Lava City. So there's still a lot of squads that haven't made their way through the safe choke points south of Geyser, around to the side of Lava Siphon. So it's going to be a lot of action on the outside of the circle too.
Yeah, and that's where we saw a lot of those teams going out early on, with Vexed Gaming falling first in map number 2. But hear me out, Vicky. I kind of want to see Ascend fully int on Game of Drones. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like if you're already running low on resources, why not chow for that god spot early? Because you mentioned it, yeah, they've got the interceptor pylon available to them, but that only heals up 250 shields throughout that team. That is gonna, and once that's used up, they're gonna have to wait for another ultimate to be able to kind of utilize that for shields as well. But Na'Vi getting down here in the tunnel, trying to make their way over to Geyser.
Yeah, Na'Vi getting involved, 3 Muppets playing on the inside of this tunnel, and with their composition, it's even great for them because they get to use the Watson fences to make sure that they can negate any sort of space from other squads that want to push in here. Maybe squads that are rocking the Crypto are going to be able to EMP to be able to close in that gap, but 3 Muppets with the Seer and the Heartbeat sensor will also be able to have the information necessary to see which of these squads are trying to push into the tunnel.
Yeah, I just feel like it's one of those moments where they need to play it a little slowly. I mean, you're going to have to watch your back as well, because you do have some teams that land on the upper side of the map that are going to be making their way in. And I like that they're leaving Dazo out here just to really watch for any kind of rotations, because you can actually get pinched inside those tunnels, and it is not a fun fight in any way, shape, or form.
My only concern here for this placement of Na'Vi is once that circle closes in, and we know that the circle will probably pull more to the south towards Geyser, where do they go from here? They know that there's a squad already right behind them. They're hearing the shots. They probably have already seen the fence lines, and they don't have a seer, so they don't have the direct information that having that scan character provides, other than the fact of Dazo taking a skyward dive and then utilizing the Valkyrie passive to get any information with squads that aren't inside some of these buildings.
Yeah, I feel like this is the calm before the storm at this point here in map number 3. We've had a lot of chaos ensue in maps number 1 and 2, but I feel like the teams are starting to play a little more slowly, right? They know what's at stake here, and that regional final is the ticket that they want to find themselves be a part of. And Turkish Stars really trying to step up, as well as teams like Corpa. Corpa currently sitting in 6th overall for the day, and every time I see Zerifer, I'm just like, I have this moment in my mind where I watched Rambo play with Zerifer, and on the Valk, and he was like, fly, Zeri, fly, and I just want to see him come in clutch in an endgame moment. But, you know, Alliance, you mentioned they'd be making their way into the ring from the south side, but they're kind of pushing all the way over to Lava City and are going to come up through that south chokehold on Geyser's south.
I'm concerned here, though. They have information probably that there's a squad right by them. If they're taking their time to rotate on the outskirts of this circle, we highlighted some squads that were rotating on the outskirts of Big Mod, and Corpa is actually in one of these buildings over in Lava City, fighting another team. This could be Vex if they decided to take the southern rotate if they didn't come across Alliance yet. And Corpa getting involved in this fight could also be a green light for Alliance to actually third-party this team.
Yeah, but with Tyler already going down to Tricks, you got a Lucky going with the trade back. Now Zeri, last man standing in a 1v2 scenario, but Vexed Gaming looking to clean this up. They're going to go ahead and Thirst 1. They have an available shield swap to them, and they've got this reset going. Not necessarily putting an end. My question is, are they going to allow that last player of the other team to kind of make their getaway? But Zeri flying in hungry, and unfortunately going to be met with the demise of Unlucky, finishing them out. And this is what Vexed Gaming needs. Currently sitting in 11th place today, and I believe 6th overall coming into this, looking to really solidify themselves as a major player. And we talk about the regional final being match point. Vexed Gaming is going to struggle with that, Vicky.
Yeah, remember the last game that we saw them in, they were the first squad to go down in the entire lobby at the hands of Alliance. So coming out on top with some KP to their name, the circle's closing in, so they have to start making their next move. But at least they'll have some great loot to work with after coming out on top of that fight. They got the Red Evil Shield to work with, and now as we tune into E6, they're overlooking a lot of the action happening on the high ground of Geyser. They're exiting out of Lava Siphon, and they're making sure that their backs are going to be cleared as Horizon, the squad that is in E6's line of sight, is finding themselves in a bit of a scruffle with the squad that's underneath them.
Ooh, but the Mastiff going in. I wish my Mastiff hit like that, and Forge is going to be eliminated. Can they stabilize here before another team decides to jump into this? Still 18 squads remaining, and I feel like we're just getting started into this game, because I feel like if we're getting this Geyser zone, I'd be really curious to see which teams maybe have had some beacon advantage to them to kind of nestle themselves on the proper side of this zone, because we know a lot of Ooh, Mimu, a little hardcore parkour for the urban reset.
Oh no, oh no, wait, he's in their line of sight. You can see the Crypto Joe peeking at them saying, no, 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 you can't be a little tricky here. And Urban's stuck literally between the rock. Oh, that's so unfortunate. He couldn't back away, and he only had a white knockdown shield, so they immediately delete that, and they clean up that last player, or rather that first player here on Horizon. Hopefully they could get that banner and they could get him into a beacon so that way they could get that res. But this is information for E6 that had the line of sight of this squad in the middle of that fight to actually know that they're playing at a number disadvantage on the outskirts of Geyser.
Look, that looked like it was going to be a successful reset for them, but unfortunately, when you have the positioning of this house that E6 has, they can overlook and completely punish every single team that finds themselves just outside their building. But the thing is, once this ring starts to pull, they are going to have to jump down, and there's a lot of open space before the first building in Geyser, and that rotation might be incredibly challenging considering they don't have a Valk, and they may need to kind of rest on Life It. They're going to have to use that Grav Lift to give them a little bit of high ground, and if you check the kill feed, Ascend finally going out at the hands of, it looks to be like Ember and Alliance.
Yeah, Ember and Alliance partaking in fighting off Ascend, the squad who won game number 2, now out in this final game on World's Edge before we make the swap over to Stormpoint. That's absolutely huge here, and I love how you pinpointed E6 not having the ability to use that Skyward Dive. Yeah, they're playing on the edge of the circle, but we know how risky it could be to be in a position like this with so many squads also taking a nice high ground approach on the opposite end of Geyser. Great call here from Alliance, because this is a nice 50-50 rotation for them in case the circle does continuously pull north, and in the case that it doesn't and it pulls towards the choke point by Big Mod, they could just backtrack again and gatekeep the other squads that are playing on the bottom end of this bridge.
Yeah, one of the storylines that we had from the last match day on EMEA was the edge zones. They were having a lot of trouble getting into those final rotations and not having a lot of success. So teams like Vexed Gaming, Ember, Alliance, the question is, yes, you want to gatekeep and find eliminations throughout this, but you need to turn your tides to playing forward and getting into a good positioning in the zone. Teams like Turkish Stars and Pioneers still trying to find their way into Geyser, and even Ember still hanging out over on Big Mod. The question is, they have to get through that chokehold. This rotation will not be easy.
Absolutely not. And Vex Gaming just came out of that fight against Corpa inside of Lava City, so Ember knew that there was going to be a squad that had to rotate from the south side, but they're in the line of sight of the other squads that are holding the choke point by the train track, so they have to be careful while trying to negate the damage from Vex underneath them. There's also Alliance not only looking in front of them, but looking behind them too to make sure that they can put in that extra pressure. Vex Gaming down from Lucky though, has to back away. Tyler with the quick shield swap, but it's not fully up to par.
Oh, this is not where you want to be. Down a member of your team, and Tyler with little life available to them, looking for another shield swap. Matafe gonna have to take a lot of that pressure away from his teammates and step up in that IGL role. It seems lots of trades coming in and out, but the question is, they are going to have to move, and there's not a lot of ring available left into this Big Mod scenario. They are able to get the reset onto Unlucky, but they're gonna full send onto the team right now, utilizing that grab lift. Unlucky finding a good LOS on that member, and that's gonna be all they wrote for Team Ember.
Love the fact that they were able to split that focus onto the last member of Ember. All the KP matters here for Vex Gaming. They got 6 KP to their name as a full squad, and even with limited health, they're going to be able to fully reset while making sure that no other squad is to their back here in Big Mod. Again, they have the Seer, so they were able to also look to see if any third party were making their way into trying to contest that fight, and Vex Gaming have at least a little room to breathe here, as well as some of those shield swaps that they were working with.
While they have that little room to breathe and go on their merry way into the next zone, Vicky, can we chat about what this zone looks like? At least 50% of it is on a cliffside. There's only one chokehold aside that's going to get you into that ring. Meanwhile, the Pioneers struggling. Nasky, the IGL already down. Max Strafing trying to get up there and put some damage down, but forced to drop down and heal again. The question is, can they get their res off, or will they get fully inted on? And it seems like they may be in trouble here.
Yeah, I believe that's Turkish Stars. Aside from E6 that have the high ground, they're trying to fight up against Alliance currently right now. E6 are fighting 2 squads at once. Let's jump into a listen-in with E6 to see how they're going to play this.
Is there any light?
No, I come to me. Go run. We need to go run now.
Yeah, I'm coming.
We need to fight in front of us. We still have Rising Neutral now.
Yes.
Nice.
I've not got dog though.
Come on the left. I see the team house leave. Come.
Okay, I'm gonna scan.
Give me come. Shoot that. Play here on me, between.
I follow my P.
Play on me, follow me.
Yeah,
follow my pass. As against the team bottom here.
I'm gonna scan inside.
I'm gonna set up an EMP. Careful, they might swing. The boy go down.
He's got a
We're gonna have to run it. Careful about. I need that. We fine. We're gonna have to run that box. Ready?
Yeah.
Take the run. I need for you on the left. Keep it on.
One.
Nice, take that spot. We're fine. Move easy up there.
There's a rampart on the right.
Just watch our back.
We're fine.
Above us, I think. Above us. See ya. The jump runners.
First him.
Get the clean. Kill.
Good. They're fighting here.
Yeah, just run it.
I'm dead.
Sorry.
Fuck that zone, man.
Came through the comms, but take a look at Phoenix Legacy. I believe that's a rampart on the other side. Chaos is literally going out in every direction here on Geyser, with even Sheila coming out from the rampart.
Yeah, these teams are just struggling even to survive, with the majority of the ring being in that cliffside scenario. It's the teams that really found themselves already in that next zone of that RNG pool are going to find success here, but everyone else has their backs against the wall. 5 squads remaining, and another team that's looking to finish in the top 3 is going to be Heroes. I've seen a lot of success out of them today, and I'm really amped for them. They find themselves outside, that top 9, but they really want to get into that regional final. But just look at all these teams collapsing. Vex just holding the roof, which I think is really great, but you got Chaco hitting that grab lift from Heroes, trying to put as much damage down to Vex, and Unlucky's already down.
Oh, they lost out on Unlucky early on in this fight, but they still remain on top here. They're able to pressure out Heroes inside of the building currently. They wanted to fully send it out to them, but be careful with the rampart and the RE45. It's Bitfix Gaming on the outskirts of this building, who have found so much success with a very unorthodox comp. The only squad running the rampart right now. We got 5 squads left. We got Bitfix Gaming, Heroes, Alliance, who only have Yuki left, Game of Thrones, and Vex Gaming.
Look, I know my friend Dia somewhere is just harping on the fact that Bitfix Gaming is finding success. He is a believer in the Rampart meta, but now Little Max on that Watson trying to utilize those fences to stay alive, and Tyler FPS hitting that grab lift and just throwing down an immense amount of damage while repositioning themselves. And he's the new kill leader, which is no surprise to him.
Tyler popping off. He's looking to try to break his own record out here. He had the game of his career just in day number 6, and now being the only member left here for Vex Gaming, he's making the quick rotation. Yuki also being the last member of Alliance, trying to find his way back into this next circle. And look at this, Heroes 2. So it's 3 rats that we have to work with right now.
Oh, this is going to get really interesting. Game of Drones moved into Geyser, had that building in the very back, and we're in it for the long haul with the best positioning. And before I blinked, Game of Drones just cleans up absolutely everyone, Vicky.
Yeah, but Vex Gaming at least were able to secure that 2nd place spot. Good on Game of Drones to call out where the circle was going to be pulling, because remember, we saw them in the high ground building, the game-winning position if that circle did pull towards Geyser since the very beginning in ring number 1.
I mean, they were in it for the long haul. You definitely mentioned it, and welcome back, Rain Day. Be curious to hear your thoughts on Game of Drones just setting up shop inside of Geyser early on and just going the distance.
Oh, it was Game of Drones who won the game, but to me, did you catch what Tyler FPS did on that gravity lift? Just flew up, committed, taking the storm damage. I would have been freaking out at that point. Just the ring already moving in, but hits the headshot over the shield, then slides in and finishes off Little Max, I believe that's who it was, playing on a Rampart. That was just a great showcase of what Vex Gaming has, and you had mentioned them earlier, and we've highlighted that team across the board. But yeah, I mean, I love the way that we saw this, Vicky. It was definitely a contested one, but we ended up having a lot of teams struggle in terms of keeping their entire composition at the end. Alliance, Vex playing as solo, so it ended up being just a game